Let me talk to you about something that's rarely taught in schools, but is absolutely necessary if you want to build lasting wealth. How to think like a rich person. Most people struggle financially, not because they're lazy or unlucky, but because they've been trained to think like the poor or middle class. As Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, famously said, "The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them." This difference in mindset changes everything. Why wealthy people buy assets, not liabilities. Let's start with something simple. Imagine I'm holding two things in my hands, a $10 bill and a 1964 Kennedy silver half dollar. I ask, which one would you rather have? Most people would grab the $10 bill. Why? Because they've been trained to value face value, not real value. But that half dollar contains real silver. It has intrinsic worth, while the $10 bill is just paper, backed by debt. Okan. This brings us to a famous principle from economics known as Gresham's Law. Bad money drives out good money. When a government floods the market with printed money, people begin to hoard real value, things like gold, silver, and real estate. That's what the wealthy do. They move their wealth into real assets. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "The wise man does not expose himself needlessly to danger, since there are few things for which he cares sufficiently. But he is willing in great crises to give even his life, knowing that under certain conditions it is not worthwhile to live." For Aristotle, prudence and wisdom were the highest virtues. Financially, prudence means preparing for future uncertainty, something rich people do by buying assets that protect them from inflation and government recklessness. Inflation. How the rich benefit, while the poor struggle. Let's talk about inflation. Every time a government prints money, it makes your money less valuable. That's just basic economics. But while the poor and middle class are hurt by rising prices, the rich benefit. Bill Gates once said, "If you are born poor, it's not your mistake. But if you die poor, it's your mistake." That's not a cruel statement. It's a challenge to take responsibility. Inflation is real, and it's not going away. So the question is, how are you protecting yourself? The rich use debt to their advantage. They borrow cheap money because interest rates are low and by appreciating assets like property. As inflation rises, their property becomes more valuable, while their loan remains fixed. It's a win-win. As Robert Kiyosaki puts it, the rich use debt to make money, the poor use debt to buy things that make them poorer. Wearing wealth. Why rich people don't always look cheap. Let's talk about image. A lot of people say, "Why would you waste money on a gold watch or gold jewelry?" But they're missing the point. When a wealthy person buys a gold Rolex, they're not buying a watch. They're buying gold in a wearable form. It's not about flaunting wealth. It's about storing value. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on earth, lives humbly but still values assets. He said, "Price is what you pay. Value is what you get." He buys things not for their price tags, but for their long-term usefulness. So yes, you might see someone with a cheap Apple Watch and someone else with a $50,000 gold Rolex. The poor mindset says, that's a waste of money. The rich mindset says, that's gold, and gold holds value. And that's the difference. Stop thinking cheap. Start thinking long-term. Poor people tend to look for what's cheap. Rich people look for what's valuable. Cheap fades, value grows. As Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." True wealth starts in the mind. You need to train your mind to see beyond the moment, beyond the price tag, and think in decades. Ask yourself, what's the long-term value of what I'm buying? Will this thing grow my wealth or drain it? Next is mindfulness and money. Watch your thoughts. This is where mindfulness comes in. Rich people are mindful of every financial move they make. They think in terms of value, opportunity costs, and leverage. Most school teachers, politicians, and media personalities are trained to think like employees. That's not an insult. It's just a system that produces followers, not thinkers. Think about this quote by Naval Ravikant, a modern-day philosopher and tech investor. Play long-term games with long-term people. In the long term, you're only as rich as your judgment. Good judgment comes from experience, and experience often comes from bad judgment. But the rich don't stay stuck in mistakes. They learn fast. The company you keep. Why environment matters. If you hang out with people who are always broke, always complaining, and always afraid to invest, you'll start thinking like them. That's how the poor stay poor. As Kiwosaki said, don't waste your time with poor people. It's not because they're poor, it's because they think poor. If you want to grow your wealth, surround yourself with people who challenge you, who know how to multiply money, and who are financially literate. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "You become what you give your attention to." So the question is, are you paying attention to wealth-building ideas or distractions? Let's wrap this up with the core rules that rich people live by. 1. Buy assets, not liabilities. Invest in things that grow in value and put money in your pocket. 2. Understand inflation. Your dollar is worth less every year. Protect yourself with real assets. 3. Use debt wisely. Use debt to build wealth, not to buy toys. 4. Think long-term. Rich people don't chase trends. They build value over time. 5. Surround yourself with wealthy thinkers. If you want to be rich, think like the rich, learn from the rich, and invest with the rich. If you want to dive deeper into the mindset that creates wealth, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. No. And remember, the journey to wealth isn't just about earning, it's about thinking. Like Kiwosaki said, money without financial intelligence is money soon gone.